So you touched on just briefly white supremacy in your last segment. A lot of people argue that in order for us to make progress, we have to fight white supremacy. Do you think that's true? And if so, how do we do it?
Well, I think that first we have to define terms. What is white supremacy? You know, in the Quran, the children of Israel were, and this is Bible too, they were under Pharaoh, Fir'aun. But Musa or Moses, upon him be peace, led them to freedom. But when they were in the desert, all they could do was give Moses a hard time, and they were asking him for things, or they were wanting things that they had got in Egypt. We want the pot herbs and the garlic and the lentils and the cucumbers, etc. We want onions. He said, go to any. They translated go to any city. Ihbitu Misra. But Misra is Egypt. In Bible is Mizraim. So it's saying that their appetite was for what they got in Egypt. When Moses went up the mountain, and in the absence of Moses, the Quran absolves Aaron from this. But the Bible has it that Aaron did it, which is make the golden calf. But the calf was made in Bible from the golden earrings that they got from the Egyptians. In Quran from the jewelry that they got from the Egyptians. So when they crossed the sea, as soon as they crossed the sea, they saw people worshiping false gods. They said, oh, Moses, make us gods like they have. So the Quran is telling us something very profound, that the oppressor can be external to you and internal. The oppressor could come from the outside, and you could be an oppressor of your own selves. So I think that when we look at white supremacy, we have to first define it in the proper light. So my grandmother, I've shared this story before. No, pardon me. My great grandmother, she passed away because she bled out giving birth upon the kitchen table because there were no hospitals to take her in. That's a form of white supremacy that existed in that day. Today, that's not common. We do, like they'll say, well, black women pass away more than white women in birth and prenatal care. They don't get it as much. The problem with that statistic is that Latino women and Asian women have a better conditions in terms of staying alive than black women and white women, and they get very little prenatal care. So there's some detail there, pre and postnatal care. I'm not denying the presence of racism, but what that does lead me to believe that there are other factors at play. My grandfather, for example, said that he wanted to be an electrician, but in the time he could not. He could only be a TV repairman. At that time, electrician work connected to television. You know this a long time ago. Black men could only be TV repairmen, but white men could be TV repairmen and electrician, like industrial, residential, just working on houses, etc. That's real. That's a form of racism that we don't have today. One of the first persons that I took a job under was a young man who had got his electrician's license in Illinois, and he did pretty well for himself, black guy. So I'm saying that to say that in other words, to put it very succinctly, the racism and the white supremacy of 100 years ago is not the same as it is today. Okay? Now, does it still exist? There's been enough study about home loans, about the educational system and how it's structured, so on and so forth, to support an argument that the structures that are in place still tip the scales against our favor as a community in various areas. I just named two. The question becomes, how do we fight it? How do we combat it? And to be honest with you, I think there are five ways. And the first is, as a people, we have to connect ourselves with God. We have to be a people who have returned to God, God's will, God's command. If you're a Muslim, live Islam. If you're a Christian, live your Christianity. If you are whatever, live by that tradition correctly, completely. I believe all of our people should check out Islam. I invite all of our people to look at Islam. But if you're not in that mind frame, be whatever it is that you say you are. Be a believer, because without God, nothing is possible for any people. The history of the United States of America, the history of any nation, they've actually written books on this where they have discovered no people have ever risen to any real authority and power until they had a belief in a higher authority and a set of higher principles that they had to ascend or aspire towards. That's a fact. A lot of our people, we have religion, but our religion is foolishness. It's entertainment. It's not a real life governed by the principles of religion. Number two, after our return to God is return to family. Adam began on this earth as a husband. His wife Eve, Adam and Eve, our life on this earth begins with family. And Allah tells us in the Quran that family is first. It has first rights in the book of God. And we know that without family, I mean, look at the statistics. Look at our community. 70+% of children born in homes that are not whole. There's a single parent there. So we are robbing ourselves of the basic equipment needed to make serious progress. No society has ever risen in the history of the world without family life being intact. And no people ever survive without their family lives being whole. And what I mean about coming back to family, we as a people, because look, I can't govern the devil. I can't govern Pharaoh. Moses couldn't change Pharaoh's mind. He was Pharaoh. But he could give the guidance to his people. So come to God. That's what I can tell other blacks. Okay, Pharaoh exists, but are you serving God? Pharaoh exists, but are you having sex outside of wedlock? Are you shacking up with women? Are you having babies with women? Look at these popular African Americans. I think I just saw Lil Boosie, and I am judging. What is it? He has like 9 children by 8 women. Cam Newton, popular podcast. He has 8 babies. Ain't married. He's not married to nobody. We know about Nick Cannon. The one rapper that was here in Atlanta who died, Shorty Low, he was going to come out with a show, All My Baby Mamas. He had like 11 children. We celebrate this. We celebrate family dysfunction. We celebrate the baby. I mean, Baby Mama was a song by 3 6 Mafia, My Baby Mama. And then there was another, but before that, it was Baby Daddy. I forget who made that song. That was in the 90s. That's just my baby daddy. We made that dysfunction. We made the dysfunction acceptable. So we've turned our back because the out of wedlock has everything to do with sexual morality. You see? So that's the second thing. Return to God, return to family. Returning to God, returning to family. I would also say we have to become a people who are willing to give. Get away from selfishness. You know, the reason why Jews, the reason why many Asians like Indians, Chinese, why they're able to make West Indians and East Indians. The reason why Nigerians, Ghanaians, why they're able to make so much progress for their life when they come to America is because they have a set of cultural strategies that's their own, that they follow, that they implement when they're here. So, for example, I read how the Koreans, for example, many Koreans, they will all live in one house and they will all get menial jobs and they will all put their dollars towards one member starting his own business. And then basically they'll just replicate that process over and over and over until everyone has their own business. I've heard that for Indians, for people, Indians, Pakistanis, etc. It's not a thing. In the black community, you know, my parents used to say this. You know how black parents are. Once you get 18, you need a job or you need to go to school. You need to start paying rent. That's poor people thinking. Everybody needs to have a job. We want to get a car when we're young. I had a friend, we were 19, 20. He wanted a car. And now he has to work full time at Walmart just to pay his car note. We're following the ways of the world. We spent our whole time here chasing what we think white people do. They move to the suburb, we move to the suburb. They move back into the city, now we want the city back. Anything a white person do, we think so the Caucasian population has been our model. But we're a separate group. We're not them. We can't do what they do. So I don't prefer my children to move out, for example. When my children get to be 18, I do prefer for them to go to school. I prefer for my young boys, if they're going to work, save your money and start a business. Wash some cars, cut some grass, save your money. If they want to get married, you all can live here. Get you a degree and do not get a bachelor's degree in, like I mentioned this before, don't get a bachelor's degree in sewing. You know, get a master's degree in tech, something that the world wants. You know what I'm saying? You could pursue Oh, but I want to be I want a degree in art. That's fine, but you got to make sure that it's something that you could really use for the advance of your life. So I would say that the willingness to sacrifice. That's what I'm really getting at. The willingness to sacrifice and the willingness to really be charitable. That's what I was really getting at. Charitable. Sacrifice is another thing, but being charitable is really what I'm getting at. The reason why I say it like that is because a lot of our people have achieved, and we have a lot of success in our community. But what we need is people showing us the road to success. We don't have enough of us giving to one another. Those who know have to be conscious about helping those who don't know. One of the big challenges that we have in our communities is just a lack of knowledge. It's not that we don't have a lack of skills and resources. We have a lack of knowledge. And there needs to be persons informing us. And I've criticized even people like that you see in the popular media. They get popular and they tell us how bad America is. But they're sitting there as a commentator on MSNBC. Why don't you tell me how you got there? Okay, you told me that 50 times how horrible this society was. Tell me how you made it to where you are. You get what I'm saying? So charitableness. The other thing that I would say is that this is the last thing. White supremacy has really warped our thinking, to be honest. The white man told us we were nothing for so long. We sort of have this unconscious urge to prove that we're somebody. We're trying to prove ourselves to him all the time. So when we think about our life, we often compare ourselves to him. And I kind of mentioned this a moment ago. And we kind of overemphasize how black we are. But the reality is the white man who put us down because of our skin color, he was a savage. He was a heathen. He was not a real human. We should first see ourselves as members of the human family. And this is where I part ways with black nationalism. Black nationalism says we are black or we are African first. That's not true. We're human first. As Imam Muhammad used to say, no baby, Chinese, Caucasian, otherwise, they don't come crying in Chinese. They don't laugh or smile in Chinese. They speak the same language of the baby. And if you take that innocent child and you take that child from China and you raise it in Ghana, that baby in his sensitivities and in his ways will be a Ghanaian child. So our humanity is first. What the white supremacists did to us was deny us our humanity. When they told us our big noses were ugly and our nappy head, those are our human features. They're black. They're part of what's being black, but these are future. Everybody has a nose. Everybody has hair. Everybody has a skin color. So all humans share in these features. They were telling us that our features are ugly. Our features are to be rejected. Our features are not as beautiful as their features. So they were denying us acceptance amongst the family of human beings. If that makes sense, it's a distinction that we really have to make, because if you see yourself as a member of the human family, then you can see the white supremacist, as I said, as a primitive savage. And if you could see him as a primitive savage, you're not living your life trying to prove yourself to him. You're trying to establish your life as in human dignity, worth, and value. So I think that we have to come into that type of recognition. And again, for me, Islam sensitizes us to these facts. We have our 5 pillars. It starts with the oneness of God. We pray to that God. We conform our whole life to that God. And the first thing that we have to do in conforming our life to God, which prayer represents or it signifies, is building up our families. We pay zakat, which is giving. Those who have, give to those who don't have. Fasting in the month of Ramadan, one of the principal values is sacrifice and giving for the benefit of others. The last of our pillars is Hajj. When you go to the Hajj, Malcolm is popular for this, you see practically everything but a green person walking down the street. You have I didn't realize some of those Asians, they're so small. It's a whole deli. It's 100 of them. They all come up to your chest, my chest at least. These are so every shape, size. White people as pale as snow, black people as black as the night. You see the whole range of humanity. Black as the night with straight hair, white with curly hair. So you see on the Hajj, you see yourself, you become matured in your perception of your humanity. Now with that mature perception of your humanity, you can go back among your black people and lift them up. So I think that this is how we really fight white supremacy. And I think that another, if you get what I'm saying, the fight, the major battlefield of the fight is internal more than it is external.